So, this happened about 3 years ago, and I still get chills from it now. I used to live in a small town outside of New York. This is the kind of town where everybody knew everybody. I live with my parents and my younger sister. My parents don't drink coffee, so there is no reason for them to have a coffee machine, but I enjoy drinking it. So one morning, I had tickets to go see Les Miserables with a friend in downtown Manhattan, and I had this long drive in front of me, so I wanted to get a cup of coffee from the garage station. This is about 8:30 a.m. I walked in, and the first thing that I noticed was the eeriness of the whole garage at the time. I got my cup of coffee and was just walking to my car when I heard sort of like a loud whisper from beneath my car saying, "Hey, lady, hey." And by now, I'm kinda creeped out because first of all, it's quite early in the morning, and second of all, I could now see someone under my car. It was a middle-aged man looking quite rough, and he had some specs and a pencil mustache. I didn't really know what to do because I was afraid of walking to my car and getting close to the man. By now he was getting out from underneath and was walking towards me, so I sped up a bit back towards the store, and he followed me, sort of jogging. I ran into the store and went straight for the back, but still in view from the lady at the cash register. The guy walks in, spots me, and starts walking towards me. So I turn the other way just to make sure he is actually following me. And by the time I get back outside the store, he is already turning the handle to walk out. In panic mode, I drop my coffee, run to my car, get in, and drive off. From my mirror, I can see this guy running after my car. So I turn the left onto the highway. As soon as I am calmed down, I get my phone out and call my mom. I tell her everything that happened to me, and she says it was probably just some druggie. So guy with pencil mustache, let's not meet again.
Please excuse my bad writing skills. It's around 1:30 a.m. and I just want to get my story out there. So this happened a few weeks ago, and I'm still trying to get over how crazy this was. I'm only 15, and this has to be one of the most fucked up things that has ever happened to me. My friend and I, whom we will call Cody, had been to the cinema and we were getting back pretty late, probably around 1 a.m. We stupidly decided to go to Tesco, a major supermarket here in Scotland, to get food and drink in order to just stay out all night. Also, may I add, yes, it was very fucking cold, but I had gloves and a jacket and shit, so it was fine. Back to the story. We spent a few hours in his garage, which happens to have an Xbox in it, drinking vodka and smoking weed because why the fuck not? We wanted to have some fun, but for some fucking stupid reason we decided to take some ecstasy, or eckies as we call them. We took one pill each, and we were waiting for it to kick in. Already drunk and high, we decided to head out. After getting out of his estate and walking another 10 minutes or so, we got to a local wooded area where people take their dogs walking. We started gathering some wood for a fire when we both stopped in our tracks to hear the sound of metal dragging along concrete. We turned around to see two dark hooded figures walking slowly towards us, maybe 80 feet away, dragging sledgehammers along the nearby path. We completely legged it and did not stop sprinting until we were back at his garage. Forgetting that we had taken these pills, they kicked in. And boy do I wish I hadn't taken one of those fucking things. The rush kicked in, and before we could even consider what had just happened, we decided to go back out there, armed. Cody, I shit you not, taking an axe from his garage, and me with a baseball bat and a knife in my pocket. We headed back out. Once we were back in the forest, I used my Zippo for light, and Cody used a torch. Why two lights, you ask? One, so we could both see and look in different directions, and two, we were high as fuck. We got a good half-mile into the forest when both of our lights went out. A lighter and a torch. The sound of snapping branches filled the forest, surrounding us, gradually getting louder. We freaked out and ran faster than I thought was possible. Nearing the end of the wooded area, the two figures stood, motionless, hoods over their heads, at the exit, still with sledgehammers. By this time, the MDMA had kicked into full throttle, and we both carried on towards them, swinging our weapons, getting closer and closer, until the next thing I remember. Cody woke me up in his garage around 7 a.m. Being startled, I looked around myself. Lighter, bat, and knife on the ground. I then noticed that I was just in my underwear, and my stomach was sliced. Not badly, but enough that there was blood from it that had trickled onto my leg. Maybe 2 inches across, and a half an inch deep. Then Cody pointed out that there was fucking hair in my wound. Not much, but it was thick and black, 100% neither mine or his, as we both have blonde hair. I noticed Cody's face and back are engraved with deep scratches, and that his t-shirt was nowhere to be found. My bat had weird oily liquid on it, and Cody's axe had small amounts of thick blood that did not look directly human in any way. We sat in silence for 10 minutes before I decided that it was best to leave. Cody and I have not spoke about this since, as we both know that what happened was completely fucked up. I dread to even think what happened that night beyond the barriers of my memory.
One rainy night in July, a friend and I were road tripping home from a long vacation. We had been on the road for hours and grew very tired. However, we kept pushing on. We consumed stimulants such as coffee and engaged in motivational conversation to pass the time by. But our eyes were quickly sinking, and we saw signs for an exit in the distance. We veered off onto an exit for Springfield, Ohio. We instantly began searching for a hotel of some sort. Up ahead in the distance, we saw a sign for Night's Inn. If you've never been to a Night's Inn, it's a fairly cheap motel. Minimal breakfast, shady rooms. It's a low price per night, but you get what you pay for. My friend and I approached the front desk and requested a room. The owner didn't speak hardly any English, but after dealing with a language barrier for 10 minutes or so, everything was situated and we were set to stay in room 13. We walked towards the room and began growing more and more tired. I slid the key into the door, and after a subtle click, the door unlocked and I pushed my way inside. The room was aesthetically underwhelming. It had a faint smell of cigarettes and Cheetos, I kid you not. But a room is a room, so after taking a shower, I climbed onto my twin-sized bed, and my friend did the same. Within 10 minutes or so, we both dozed off. 5 a.m. I was abruptly awoken by heavy banging on the door. I glared over at my friend, who shot up as quickly as me, trembling in fear. Only the banging didn't subside. It was persistent. After 3 minutes being frozen in fear, I slyly crawled to my phone, avoiding the main window. I dialed 911, explaining the situation, and they claimed they were sending an officer out right away. The banging was still going on, so I screamed, "What do you want?" It instantly stopped. I heard muffled voices, and they began to fade away. At this point, it was around 5:30 a.m. and still dark outside. I crawled up to the door and glared out the peephole, and nothing was there. As soon as I slipped back down, a loud bang echoed through the room as the attacker began to pound on the window. A deep voice was heard laughing, and as soon as it began again, it stopped. The cops never showed. Right when daylight beamed into the room, we booked her to the car and drove off. This, however, was not the unsettling part. The next day, as I got home, which was maybe around an hour or so away, I began to watch the news. A 40-year-old man was found in room 14, right next door to ours at the Knights Inn Motel. He had many weapons and had kidnapped a 14-year-old girl who claimed she was in love with him. To this day, I'm not sure who was banging on my door that morning, but I'm so thankful I didn't answer.
This story takes place over a year time span. I was with my best friend. We'll call him Josh. Josh was at my house. We were broing out, playing video games, you know, all that stuff you do with your friends. After a while of playing video games, we got bored. Josh suggested we go on a walk. It's around 12:45 a.m. I live in a relatively safe neighborhood, though. We're walking and we come to a street I haven't been down. We turn. Big mistake. We pass a house with a huge bay window and we see a group of people in it. They're singing. You know those tips from a smoker commercials? That's what the singing sounded like. The singing is getting louder. Josh and I hide behind a bush in the yard to see what happens. I stand up and the front porch lights turn on because we were in range for the motion sensor. The group turns and stares right at Josh and I. In the dim light, we see they have upside down crosses on their heads and what appears to be blood. We book it down the road. We get back to my house and we don't say a word to each other. After Josh leaves the next day, I take my dog on a walk. I turn on the same street where the satanic ritual was the previous night. I see a crumpled up piece of paper on the ground. I uncrumpled it, and it was my Facebook profile picture with the eyes cut out and blood smeared on the picture. I ran home. I didn't tell anyone. Flash forward a year. Josh and I were taking my brother trick-or-treating, and we turn on that godforsaken street. We avoid that house. We go to the neighbors, and an old lady in latex gloves with scraggly hair and a scratchy voice comes out and says, "God bless you," and made a cross on all of our foreheads. We leave that street after that. Josh and I don't speak about what happened. Believe what you want, but I'm telling the truth.
So, this happened about 3 years ago, and I still get chills from it now. I used to live in a small town outside of New York. This is the kind of town where everybody knew everybody. I lived with my parents and my younger sister. My parents don't drink coffee, so there is no reason noticed was the eeriness of the whole garage at the time. I got my cup of coffee and was just walking to my car when I heard sort of like a loud whisper from beneath my car saying, "Hey, hey, lady, hey." And by now, I'm kinda creeped out because first of all, it's cool. I sped up a bit back towards the store and he followed me, sort of jogging. I ran into the store and went straight for the back, but still in view from the lady at the cash register. The guy walks in, spots me, and starts walking towards me. So I turn the other way just to make sure he is actually following me. And by the time I get for them to have a coffee machine, but I enjoy drinking it. So one morning, I had tickets to go see Les Miserables with a friend in downtown Manhattan, and I had this long drive in front of me, so I wanted to get a cup of coffee from the garage station. This is about 8:30 a.m. I walked in, and the first thing that I know quite early in the morning, and second of all, I could now see someone under my car. It was a middle-aged man looking quite rough, and he had some specs and a pencil mustache. I didn't really know what to do because I was afraid of walking to my car and getting close to the man. By now he was getting out from underneath and was walking towards me.